long time ago. The galaxy far, far away. I grew up in southwestern Pennsylvania. My father was a coal miner. I studied engineering at Penn State because Penn State opened a branch campus in my hometown, and I didn't have to worry about changing my lifestyle. I literally could get a job. So after I left the seminary, and Uniontown High School. After 2 years in seminary, I decided I didn't want to be a priest. Came back to Uniontown, and from then on, I focused on engineering. People have asked me why, and I love anything that flies. When I was a kid, I can remember very clearly taking 3 pieces of wood, fuselage, wing, back wing, couldn't figure out how to put the rotor on, so I tried it those 3. Threw it, didn't fly. Took me a while to figure that out. But eventually I did. I went to Penn State, as I said, to that branch campus in Uniontown. And I went on to Penn State's main campus up at State College. And I did that for 3 years, got my bachelor's degree in aerospace engineering, graduated in 1970. The bottom had fallen out of the space program. I had a bulletin board wallpaper with rejection letters. I couldn't get a job. I wound up designing nuclear reactors for the Navy. Those of you who are in aerospace engineering know when you study structures in aerospace engineering, you normally study thin metal sheets, shear flow, things like that. I'm looking at forgings 8 inches thick. This does not fit what I was doing. Their solution to a stress problem in the nuclear industry is add more metal. We don't do that in the space business. It doesn't work. So I only lasted at that job for a year. I went back to Penn State. My advisor at Penn State gave me an opportunity to come back and join him. I got my master's degree in aerospace. At that point, I was able to get a job with RCA. RCA, I'm sure that most of the young people here have never heard of RCA. Some of the older folks may remember RCA TV sets. RCA used to make TV sets and all things electronic, but they also made satellites. First weather satellites were a combination of RCA and GE. GE still exists. GE still used to make weather satellites. They don't do that anymore. But RCA and GE made weather satellites. The reason they took me in, because they wanted to build a communication satellite. It was something that they had never done before. The fact that I was right out of college didn't hurt. Nobody had any experience building geosynchronous communication satellites. So people have asked me how I wound up getting to do what I did, and I got to be very honest with you. My life is a history of being lucky. I was in the right place at the right time. When I started at RCA, nobody had ever done it. If you look at the geo belt, the geo spacecraft belt right now, there are hundreds of satellites in the geosynchronous orbit. I was at the lead of that parade. SATCOM was one of the first. It was the first one to deliver TV. And as that exploded, my career just got sucked along with it, including the shuttle program, including my flight. When I started working there, as you pointed out, I came to RCA. My background was in spacecraft dynamics, orbital mechanics, rendezvous, and those kinds of things, because I wanted to go into space. Find out working on communication satellites, that's not that big a part of the job. You have to interface with a lot of the people who are designing the satellites, and the satellites are all electronics. So I decided I needed to learn more about electronics. I started taking night courses. After taking several night courses, I said, this is ridiculous. If I'm going to take all these courses, I might as well get a degree out of it. So I came up here, I talked to the professors, and they said, yeah, we can arrange a graduate program for you, and I wound up getting my master's degree up here in aerospace engineering. Electrical engineering. Since then, I was telling one of the young people earlier, I could be a professional student. And if any of you, and how many people here think they might want to go into space? Okay. You guys, people ask me what they should study. The answer is everything. And I don't mean that facetiously. English is important. Communication skills, a foreign language will be very useful. The program is truly international right now. If you could at least be conversant in another language. That would be a good thing. As far as picking a discipline, I'm an engineer. I applied 4 times to be a career astronaut and got turned down all 4 times. There were a lot of medical doctors in the astronaut office. There are a lot of scientists in the astronaut office. I'm sort of casually interested in astronomy. I enjoy going out looking at the stars, but I'm certainly not an astronomer. And somebody told me, maybe you should have studied astronomy, and then you could have been an astronaut. I flew with 3 astronomers. I'm like, nah. If I had studied astronomy, I never would have flown. Because I don't love astronomy. I'm interested in it. You gotta love it. You gotta be so immersed in it that when the whistle blows at the end of the day, you may go home if there's no more work to do. But if there's a problem on your desk and it has to be done, you say, not because the boss told you to, you want to know what the answer is to the problem. It's just who you are. It takes that kind of dedication to get into that, because it's very competitive. The first time I applied, there were 10,000 applicants for 40 positions. Needless to say, as I said, I didn't make the cut. And it's been the same since then. It's very competitive. And that's okay. You know, if you find something that you love to do, and that's what you're studying, and that's what you're doing, getting to fly is the topping on the cake. But you're having fun every day of your life. You know, if you're working at something you love, you're really never work a day of your life. You're just going to do something that you love to do. So my advice, somebody thinks they want to go in space, find something that you love to do that you think would benefit somehow from being in space. One of the career astronauts from here in New Jersey, from the New Jersey, New York area, Mario Ronco, was a weatherman for the New Jersey State Police before he became an astronaut. You wouldn't think of a meteorologist being an astronaut, but that's what Mario did. This is the selection path, if you will. I applied when first time I was 29, January of 1978. They took 35 people. At that point, I was an attitude control engineer. I applied again when I was 31 in 1980. They took 19 people. At that point, I was an integration and test manager. That was where Mr. Antoine and I did the same thing. We were building the satellites. We were building the satellites out on the INT floor, integration and test. The third time I applied was May 1984. I was 35. Then I was a systems engineering manager. This was the reason I got the slot. And again, being in the right place at the right time. RCA had a satellite that was being launched from the shuttle. If they had a major payload on the shuttle, they were allowed to offer up one of their engineers to fly as an observer. It didn't help deploy the satellite. RCA paid, the companies paid NASA a lot of money to launch that satellite. They're not going to get some yahoo in off the street and go push the button. And there, if anything had gone wrong, because I had been manager of systems engineering, if you only got to send one person, I was the one most likely to be able to help them debug it, to decide what to do with it, so I didn't necessarily have to bring it back. We had already built the satellite, so my work on that job was done. My next assignment was going to be on space station. They had already told me, okay, Bob, after you're done this, we're going to be building a space station. A big part of this, you're going to work on space station. Cool, that's how I want to fly in space. We're going to get part of that. The opportunity comes up. They're flying my satellite. I finish that job, and where am I going to go? I'm going to go to work on space station. Well, what better place to have an astronaut than on the space station? And I hadn't started that job yet, so here I am. I can disappear for 6 months, and my training as a payload specialist was 6 months long. I could disappear for that 6 months, and nobody would know I was gone. I hadn't started any new responsibilities. So at that point in time, when that opportunity came up, there were probably at least a dozen engineers, Ken Johnson being one of them, who could have easily gone and did what I did. But the fact of the matter is, when the opportunity came up, my name just popped up. Right place at the right time. Then I did try one more time. I flew in January of 1985, January of 1986. I missed this round of applicants because I knew what I was doing. There was no reason to apply to that one. I did try afterwards, and that turned out again. And at that point, you can see I was 38. NASA had an informal guideline of 35 years old. and I was pushing the envelope when I was 38, and the next round was when I was over 40. So that's when I finally stopped flying. Now, one of the guys that I flew with once told me what people really want to know about when they hear an astronaut is what's it like to go into space. It's amazing. This vehicle is the size of an airliner. How many of you have flown commercially? You've been in airplanes, right? Big vehicles. Next time you go to an airport and you see that airplane sitting on the ground, try to imagine it's standing on its tail. So that's how big that is. It's an airliner and it's standing on its tail. First time I went out to the vehicle, I walk out to the vehicle and I'm like, people have asked me, do you really understand or know what you're getting into? You go out to the vehicle, and one of the first things you do when you're going to training, everything flammable, anything that will burn, anything that combustible, take it and lock it away. Because you're standing next to 4 million pounds of slow-burning dynamite. I'm going to climb up there, they're going to strap me in, and then they're going to light it. You would have to be an idiot not to know that you're putting your life at risk. I trained with Chris McCullough. If you read the bio, I flew on the last flight before the Challenger accident, so I trained with Chris. Chris was not an aerospace engineer. Chris was not an engineer. Krista was a very bright lady who knew exactly what she was getting into. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to understand you're putting your life in your hands. So we talked about it more than once. And the bottom line was simply that the opportunity that we had, the things that we would be able to do far outweigh the risk that we were putting ourselves at. And I still feel the same way about that. That's why I applied again afterwards. And I had tried on a couple of other times to get another position as a payload specialist because I told people I would like to stay in space long enough to find out when I got bored being in space. Because it's that amazing an experience. I mentioned that vehicle is large. When people see the pictures and you see the stuff inside, it's much smaller, and you say, well, what's the rest of it? This is essentially the back of the truck. It's the cargo bay. And you normally can't even live there. There was a special module on the shuttle program called Space Lab. They completed there that you could live in. Like on my flight, it flew a satellite back. There was a satellite back there. So the part of the shuttle that we actually lived in was this part right up here on the top. It's called the crew cabin. It has an upstairs and a downstairs and a bathroom. And so this is a drawing of a couple of those. These seats are an interesting test of your faith in engineering. Because if you look at this, you see this panel under here. This is downstairs. This is the mid-deck. There is a lower deck. Lower deck is below the mid-deck. So this drawing shows you the shuttle sitting on the ground. So when you stand the shuttle up, those chairs are hanging from the wall. Now because the chairs are hanging from the wall, they weigh 90 pounds because they have to support your weight during the launch environment. Think about this. You are hanging from the wall, and you will also notice in the pictures the chairs, you won't see the chairs. Because they're not a permanent part of the structure. You don't need chairs in space to float around the cabin. So they're not a permanent part of the structure. They actually attach with 4 bayonet mounts. There are 4 quick disconnects on the bottom so that you can unclip them. And they fold up. Because when you take them out, you want to fold them up and put them out of the way. You will not see the chairs in the photos that I show you. So on the ride up, I'm hanging on the wall. That's the door to the mid-deck. So I'm hanging on a door in a chair that weighs 90 pounds by 4 quick disconnects. I had been an engineer 14 years when I did this, and I remember thinking, please God, don't let them break. And they told me that everybody says this wall of lockers is the front of this. You can't see it. Flip it around, this is that wall. Because you're hanging from the wall, you can't just carry things with you. Everything has to be packed. If you need it on the ride up, it's either packed in your uniform or it's attached to your seat. But everything for the flight up is in the lockers. So every one of those locker doors has stuff loaded inside there, and here you are looking at these locker doors. See, guys, the doors are all nice. I'll show you those doors. There's another story for the engineers, and you will get to this locker. This is upstairs in the space shuttle, and this is the cockpit. If you've ever flown commercially again, I'm sure you've seen the cockpit. The only difference here is we have rocket engines instead of jet engines. We have more redundancy than they have even on a commercial airliner. But the ceiling down here is about this high. It's not really big. If we go back to this, the ceiling downstairs is about this high. It's really not too bad. Side to side, it goes from about here to the other side of the lectern. So it's a pretty good size volume. It's about this big front to back. 7 people, it can be cozy, except that you can sit on the ceiling. And that really does help. And I'll show you a little bit about that in a second. If you look carefully here, you can see some of the floor lockers in the back. The galley, where the meals are prepared. Waste collection system compartment. That's government speak for bathroom. That arrow is pointed at the bathroom door. The hatch is right here. I had a very observant young lady once asked me, he said, why do you have a door on the bathroom if you don't close it? We didn't close the door in space. I'll show you that picture. That's the door, that's the floor when we crawl up the vehicle. You actually have to crawl through across that to get up into your seat. This is upstairs, we already went through that. This is our official in-orbit portrait. And as I said, that's the side. We're looking across the cabin. So if this was the front, we're looking across the cabin, and all of us are aligned in this thing. And Charlie Bolden, my pilot, and I are on opposite ends of the ceiling. And this is the way you move around. Once you've adapted to weightlessness, and you do have to adapt to weightlessness. I'm sure some of you have probably heard the term space sickness. Anybody here ever heard of space sickness? And I've had a lot of adults tell me that they can never go in space, but they get sick on airplanes. We tend to think of space flight as being the ultimate in air travel. But then we make the logical extension that space sickness must be the ultimate in air sickness. And people have the notion that all astronauts get sick when they go into space. Well, a lot of astronauts get sick in space. That is not true. Very few astronauts get sick in space. Every astronaut has symptoms of space adaptation syndrome. That's another mouthful of words, which has just been shortened to space sickness. But it really is adaptation. You've all seen pictures of the training, people bouncing around inside an airplane. That airplane is lovingly referred to as the vomit comet. That's air sickness. You fly, it flies like a roller coaster. You know the feeling is you're in a roller coaster, you go all over the top, but you're going to come up out of your seat. Do that at 500 miles an hour, and you will come up out of your seat. And inside the airplane, as it goes over the top, you get about 20 or 25 seconds to bounce around inside the cabin. Now, because you're not in space, you can't keep doing that. You're going down, so you have to pull out. Now comes the motion sickness. Now comes the vomit comet. Because they're not allowed to do this over land. They fly out over the Gulf of Mexico to do this. They got a patch of water about 10 square miles, and they do this. They're not going to fly one cycle. They fly into that patch of water enough. I do this with my wife in the room, and she says, don't do that, and make me sick doing it. Some people find that motion, just that motion, nauseating. They're not stopping the airplane if one person gets sick. There were about 25 of us on our flight. They don't stop the airplane. You get sick, you go to the back of the plane, find yourself a corner, and you sit there. And it doesn't get any better once it starts. Now, I love the vomit comet. I flew on it 3 times. To me, this was just like the greatest ride in the world. But a lot of people do have a problem. That is adapting to moving around in zero G. It's not adapting to living in zero G. While you're sitting there right now, your heart is pumping more blood up. But your brain needs blood to function. And gravity is trying to drain the blood out of your head. When you pass out, I think the technical term for some symptoms of blacking out is basal dilation. Anybody here really knows more about medicine than I do, they've probably heard that term. The legs, the muscle, the blood vessels in your legs relax, the blood drains out of your head, you pass out. Okay? Your heart pumps more blood up to counter that. You go into space, and gravity is not pulling it down, and your heart does not realize that gravity is not pulling it down. So it keeps trying to pump the blood up. I can tell every one of you, if you went into space tomorrow, after about 2 hours, you're going to have a fat head. I can't tell you how you feel about it, but you will have a fat head. One of the guys in my crew went around with a camera, a tape measure, a a cardboard frame, put around our face with color bars on it, took pictures to try to categorize how fat is his face. How much did it expand? What color is it? How does the color vary from this normal color? How much? This is all trying to understand because everybody's physiology is different. The good news is, remember I said it's space adaptation syndrome. Everybody that goes into space does in fact have to. For me, it took about a day to a day and a half before it came back to normal. You wind up being a lot, like day one, you drop a lot of fluids, and then your head becomes normal. Right now, your diaphragm is supporting your organs. Okay, when you get into orbit, gravity isn't pulling them down, your diaphragm's still trying to lift them. So it's up here somewhere. I had a serious case of space adaptation. To me, it felt like I wasn't nauseous, I didn't throw up, I wasn't sick. To me, it felt like I had been hanging upside down for about 2 hours. If I had been John Glenn, if I had been the first man to go into space, I'd have sworn I was going to die of a stroke. But I knew 200 people had done this and lived, so if I got, I'll make it. And it took me about a day to a day and a half, and then everything shifts. We do adapt. It's amazing how adaptable we are as a species. This picture was taken not on flight. I wouldn't do this on flight day one because I'm upside down. Here's the ladder. People have said, well, why didn't you just use a ladder the way normal people use a ladder? Because in space it's dumb. If I wanted to go down a ladder in space, I'd have to stick my toes under it and pull myself down. And then I can't see where I'm going. If we were training, and when we trained in the simulator, I would have to come down the ladder, think he happened to be back here a little bit, then I'd bump into him. But in space, you don't have to come all the way down. If I come down here and see him, I can just float across the ceiling. Once I've adapted to being weightless. This room would be great fun to play in. I would not want to work in this room in space. Because you want to be able to reach out and touch something, to control yourself as you're moving around the cabin. And in this room, you can't do that. I mean, if I wanted to go to the back of the room, I can't imagine how I'd try to do it. I can push off, but somewhere along the way, I'm going to bump into something, and I'm going to wind up careening off in some other direction. And you'll notice that most of the people look like they're moving slowly. It's just because of that. You have to get control of your motion, and it's something that takes time to get used to. The food is one of the big surprises. This is a meal for the entire crew, and you can see the boxes here, and the little cans. If I try to do this, I'd probably have this trail with cocktails all over the But if you move it slowly, it sticks in the can. When you wipe the can, the spoon off on the lid of the can, because you could get the whole can of fruit cocktail stuck on the spoon. I mean, it's just as happy sticking to the spoon as it is to the can. So you wipe it off there just for to keep it limited the quantity, if you will. You can eat or drink anything in space. Think about it. It's only in how it's packaged. Cooking it is another issue. All of the food we had in space was prepared. And cooking food is one of the things they're struggling with. I shouldn't say struggling, but they're working on in terms of long-term spaceflight. Because if they're growing vegetables and they're growing things on the way to space, then they're going to have to do that in space. Everything that we flew was prepared, and as I said, this is probably a box of, looks like it might be rice. And it starts out dehydrated, but rice was actually kind of tough because when you added water to it, again, next time you have a plate of rice, if you pick it up, you know it's sticky. Well, it depends on how you like your rice. If you like your rice just moist and not really wet, and it's more crumbly than sticky. And so the next time you have something crumbly, look at all the crumbs on the table in front of you and imagine them floating around your face. That will happen. On the other hand, you have food like this, and this is the ceiling, and these are pastries. They actually had 7-day menus on the shuttle. The shuttle menu was 5 days. You had a 5-day menu, and then on flight day 6, you went back and you had the meal for flight day 1. So you recycled every 5 days was repeat on the shuttle program. I don't know what they do on the space station. But they also had a pantry, and the pantry had junk food, snacks, things that people, limited supply. You can have an unlimited supply of these things. But these are just like the pastries you can get from a vending machine. The only difference is when you eat them down here, you know how your fingers get sticky from the glaze? You don't have to touch them. You can just pull out the cage and let it float in the cabin and move it out of here. see just barely this round part. This is the hatch. This panel is the bathroom door. And you can see the ever-present roll of duct tape. And yes, we all did take duct tape with us. And you can see here the towel that's taped to the top of the bathroom door. There is a privacy screen that goes from this edge of the door with the galley, and the Columbia had been in for maintenance. And that door was very carefully modified so that the screen didn't fit on our plane. So we got into work and we decided we still wanted our privacy because this is the inside of the bathroom. So if you're looking up then, if you didn't have that screen there, you'd be looking up to the flight deck, and you really didn't want to be looking up to the flight deck while you're sitting there going to the bathroom. Physical act of going to the bathroom is exactly the same as it is here. When I do this presentation, it's just life in space. I open it up with saying, living in space is exactly the same as it is here, only here. Obviously, you don't sit in space. This is a seat with a hole in it. If you look carefully, you can see what looks like a handle over here. There's another one over here that you can't quite see. It's not a handle. You position yourself on the seat, and there's a spring in that handle. You pull the handle up, turn it over your leg, and let go, and the spring pulls down gently, one on each leg, and it holds you on the seat. Great. Zero gravity. You're sitting. You go to the bathroom exactly the same as you do here. And everybody says, yeah, but what takes the stuff away from you? Zero G. The answer is air. There are openings all around the outside edge of the seat, and there's a fan that's drawing air down through those openings. So other than the fact that you feel a draft in a place you've never felt a draft before, the air takes the stuff away from you. And it works very well. And after you're done, you clean up exactly the same as you do here. And it goes into the bowl. Now it's damp, so it adheres to the outside of the bowl. Now we come to the different part. After you're done, if you see this little ball here, you slide that ball back, and a plate slides across just below the seat. There's a plate right under there that you can't see, and it seals that volume. After you have sealed that volume, you open the vent to space, and you let the air out. You didn't dump any of the material, but you let the air out. Once you've let the air out, you vacuum sterilize it. You kill the bacteria, you kill the germs, you don't have an odor problem, you don't have an health problem. Now, my wife was aghast to find there's a checklist for going to the bathroom. You guys have a checklist for everything. Think about it. Okay, I come in to use the bathroom. There's a vacuum in that hole. You can't do that. You have to close the vent from space. After you close the vent from space, you still have a vacuum in that volume. So you have to bleed air back into the bowl. That's another valve. After you bled air back into the bowl, you still got that plate that far from your bottom. You don't want to do that. So you have to change it up. You have to pull the ball, move the air, move the plate. After you've done that, you still don't have the draft. You have to turn the fan on. Get that. Now those are 5 or 6 things, and that's not a big deal. I know that. When you close that vent from space, how do you know that vent closed? A little pilot light. Vent open, vent closed. So you go down to the bathroom, throw the switch, light doesn't change. Uh-oh, now what do I do? There's a procedure for that. There's a malfunction procedure. The training to go to the bathroom is about 1/4 inch paper. Because why didn't the light change? Did the light fail? Did the switch fail? Did the valve fail? Did the power bus fail? There are any of a number of things that could have failed. The response to any one of them is different. And that same situation applies for every switch, every action that you took. So, and you really don't want to leave anything to chance when you're in space. Because obviously it's life-threatening. You open that vent to space, if you don't go through the right procedures, you're all history. The air leaks out of the cabin, and that's it. So there's a procedure for all of this stuff, but the physical act of going to the bathroom is exactly the same as it is here. If I lived on space station for 6 months, I wouldn't have any problem with all of this. Many people have asked in this age of Apollo, what's it like to see the world hanging like a little ball on space? I have no idea. Those pictures were taken by the Apollo astronauts. They were thousands of miles away on the way to the moon. If I looked out the window, and the shuttle actually flew upside down most of the time, which you can I just went up and looked out the window, this is what I would see. Some of you may recognize what that is, and some of you may not. I'm not sure. I see somebody turning his head here, I'll make it easy for you. Now you all know who it is. I'll bet you all know where it is now. Florida. How many of you recognize Florida Kennedy the first time? Did you? Some people do, some people don't. It's amazing. God hasn't put labels on things. And this view would last about 7 minutes. This is the view you have. When you're going around the world, when you're in orbit, you're going around the world every hour and a half. In low Earth orbit, it doesn't make any difference if it's a space shuttle, if it's a space station, if it was Sputnik, the first satellite this big. It's going around the world every hour and a half. So you're going to see this little sliver off on the horizon. And then as you come up over it, it'll start to look like this for about 7 or 8 minutes. And then it's going to set. And then it's going to look like this sliver on the other side of the horizon. So actually seeing things and identifying them is a challenge. And if that's something that you want to look at, if you wanted, I had an infrared camera and I was looking for very specific things, you have to get it right the first time, because the next time I come around, the world has turned by 22.5 degrees, going around the world every hour and a half. I'm not going to come up over Florida. I'm going to come up over Houston. The next time I come up around, I'm not going to come over Houston. I'm going to be out of the Pacific Ocean somewhere. I'm not going to come around over Florida for 16 hours. So you have to plan everything for spaceflight, particularly when you're talking about looking down. This is the reason I was allowed to fly. This is the satellite that I was manager of systems engineering on. This golden blue cube you see up on the top weighs about 4,000 pounds. This is what RCA called their Series 4000 spacecraft, because it weighed 4,000 pounds. We dropped it off at 185 miles. This is a solid rocket motor. I started my career with model rocket motors this big. This is exactly the same thing, only it weighs 6,000 pounds. The safety on my little model rocket motor said be at least 30 feet away when you light this thing. The safety on that says be at least 40 miles away when you light this thing. So you'll see, I think I have in the video, we spin this thing, and by spinning it, it's like a top. It will stay pointed. The commander actually orients the shuttle so that motor is pointed in the right direction. And when we pop it off, because it's spinning, it stays pointed in that direction. The timer fired that motor 40 minutes later, and we were 40 miles away. Okay, I've got a short video and I will still leave time for questions. First thing you're going to see is you're going to see us coming out of a building. Talk to your parents about this. In the early days they had primary and backup crews. They didn't have a backup crew. We were kept in isolation for the last 7 days before the flight. We actually lived in a building down at the Kennedy Space Center called crew quarters. People would just cycle in and out of there. I had a room in crew quarters. We stayed there for 7 days. You get in the vehicle about 2 hours before you launch. And remember I said the chairs were not going to be hanging on the walls. So you get in and you have to, it takes a lot to get into the vehicle, to get strapped in. You're hanging there for about 2 hours. When they light the main engines, people all want to know what's it like to ride up. Loud. The closest NASA will let you get is about 5 miles away. 5 miles away, you know something's happening. Think about it. If it's 5 miles away, you can hear it. How loud is it going to be inside the metal can that's making all the noise? The vehicle turns over and flies down range. Because I started off hanging on the wall, you're actually upside down. You got a seat belt, 2 shoulder straps on. It didn't feel like I was hanging upside down. It felt like I was sliding up in my seat. It was an interesting feeling. Because I flew for RCA, I had no vehicle responsibilities. I was a passenger on the ride up and the ride back. So I just settled in for the ride up, and it was absolutely amazing how our minds process what's going on. You ever watch a launch? Altitude 5 miles, downrange 10 miles, velocity 20,000 feet per second, or whatever the numbers are. When you're in it, man, that's me. It is absolutely amazing. We get into orbit, we're upside down, we're looking down at the Earth. We're not in our final orbit, but we are in space. Here is my satellite being deployed. As I said, we spun it at about 40 or 50 RPM. And that basically stabilized it so that you can see it doesn't move. It turns out, those of you who are studying engineering, understand energy dissipation. That happens to be an unstable configuration, but only with energy dissipation. rotation, so it does not really stabilize in the time that it had to be there. We got to watch it. I worked on that spacecraft for 2 years, and for about 20 minutes, I just watched it drift away. Absolutely amazing. Then we passed into darkness, because going around the world, we passed into darkness, and then the commander turned the shuttle so it was away from it, and we backed away so it would be far enough away when the ancient timer part of it was. And it just drifted further and further away. Here is the eastern horn of Africa, again from 185 miles up. I stayed up all night one night just to look out the window. Wasn't supposed to do that, but I did. Absolutely went around the world 5 times in the 8 hours I was supposed to be sleeping. I watched a thunderstorm over Africa that looked like I was watching popcorn in the pot. We played with our food. We didn't have any recreational time on the shuttle flight. On the space station, they do have personal time. We didn't have any personal time on the shuttle flight. Everything was, we were scheduled to within 5-minute intervals. But when you were unpacking things, and this was one of my experiments, the guys had the cameras out and said, okay, we'll have a little video. I had this fascination with turning sideways. I have no idea why. This is one of those cans of fruit cocktail that I mentioned. The fruit cocktail, the spoon will stick to the fruit cocktail will stick to the spoon, but you still have to catch it. And that one got away from me. This is packing up to come home. Now, I don't like to clean up any more than the next guy does. I'm not sure how many of you are real gung-ho about house cleaning, but the next time you help your parents run the vacuum cleaner, look at that long hose and that long extension cord, and imagine it's not laying on the floor. This is a TV cable. It's 20 or 25 feet long, and you have to pack it up to bring it home. You don't want it floating down around your head. Come back down again. Steve is something of a medium. This does have technical implications for the record. When you're wiring space stations, when you're doing wire, when you're doing work with stuff like that, it can be a problem. Now you may notice that he wasn't moving around the cabin. Why was he not moving around the cabin? If you look carefully, you can just see a little bit of a silver there. You'll see in the next view, these things right here, they're foot restraints. They're Velcro, they're taped to the floor, so you can stick your toes in them. I mean, that's what they call the crew preference item. You put those wherever you as a crew wanted them so you can stick your toes in. But if you were working near the floor, and I just hacked that up, you can use it for a hand restraint and lay on the floor and sit upside down. This was our landing out of Edwards Air Force Base in California. We landed in the wee hours of the morning. After 6 days in space, I talked about space adaptation. Now we got to flip that around. You have to readapt to 1G. All of the things that you do down here that you don't think about at all, okay, are gone. Absolutely gone. He didn't think about whether that was going to hit it or not. He didn't consciously think where his arms needed to be to catch it, or when they needed to catch it, or how hard they had to press to catch it. He just did that. After 6 days in space, it would have hit him in the face, if it had even reached him. Because after 6 days in space, they gave me an orange, and they said, throw me an orange in the white room. And I'm about from here to him, and I threw it as hard as I could. And it reached their feet. Think about what your mind has to do to throw something. The engineering students have studied calculus. You high school students, some of you may have studied calculus, and if you haven't, you surely will. And you think about that when you mention calculus. That's calculus. Doing that is calculus, and we do it subconsciously. We don't even think about it. Engineering is just the act of thinking about all those things and trying to understand and modify them. But after 6 days in space, your mind doesn't do that calculus. Fortunately, your mind reacts very quickly. We landed on a Saturday morning. By Saturday evening, I was almost. My daughter was a year old, and we went out to dinner, and I took her, and I went to put her in a high chair, and I almost fell over because I moved a little too fast, and my mind and my muscles weren't reacting quickly enough. Sunday morning, I got up, and I went to brush my teeth, and I opened the toothpaste and dropped the lid and reached up like this. But by Sunday afternoon, I was effectively back to energy. Now, when the people fly today for 6 months, They had issues with muscle tone because their muscles get weak. They exercise. The space station regimen includes 2 hours of exercise per day. The first person to stay in space for a year was a Russian cosmonaut. His name was Romanenko. And his hobby was weightlifting. That was what he did for fun. So he had his 2 hours of exercise regimen, and he had 2 hours of personal time every day, and he used that for his hobby. He worked out. So he's working out 4 hours a day. And carry a lot of him. 4 hours a day is not the same. I mean, you walk around, you're sitting up, you're supporting yourself. 4 hours a day doesn't cover that. You do all of that continuously. So this is one of the questions we have about a manned mission to Mars. How do you really accommodate that? You probably heard some of the talk of literally spinning the whole vehicle so that you can load up people's joints a bit, so that you can get some amount of exercise. These are all the questions and all the trades that we really have to understand. Okay, I'm done. I'm not done. I'm finished chatting. Anybody have any questions?
How tall did you get when you came back to Earth?
Say again, please.
How tall did you get when you came back to Earth?
How tall did I get?
Yeah, I heard like you get taller when you go to space.
I grew about 1.5 inches when I was in space, but it's not really growing. Your spine is stretching. One of the common symptoms of space sickness or space adaptation is backache, because your spine actually stretches, and your spine doesn't like that. But it didn't bother me. This was not one of the symptoms that I had. But when you come back down, it does compress again. It's not really growth. But yeah, unfortunately, you can't go into space and come back in NBA spot. You're going to come back. It would be interesting. Actually, it's an interesting question. I wonder if it always comes back to zero. Somebody must have looked at that. Does it always come back to the node's net gain, or is there some residual plus or minus left? It'd be interesting to know that.
Are you aware of the study that NASA performed on the 7 twins?
The twin study? Yeah.
Yeah. Where one was sent out into space and came back as DNA with a little bit of change.
Yeah. I don't know a whole lot about human physiology, but the people that I have talked to say there is a normal amount, there are normally changes that take place, very subtle changes in DNA normally. So I don't really know how statistically significant those were. I have to defer. Does anybody here in the room have a medical degree that can speak to that? Because I certainly am not qualified. Yeah, it's one of the things. We in the space business are very, very careful about the details. So some very, very subtle difference might pop up. It may not be significant. I don't know. I'm not saying it isn't. I just don't know.
I believe you mentioned something about, you said you were talking about how you were growing orange once you got down to Earth, and it was in like the white room.
Yeah.
What were some of the other tests that they...
That was the guy that I threw ragging on.
Oh, really?
Whoa! No, actually, it was funny. My commander was rather upset. Because I flew as a payload specialist, the doctors they look at me as sort of a special kind of guinea pig, because I'm not a pilot, flight certified, right stuff kind of individual. I'm a guy they literally sucked out of his desk and they sent him to space. And so the doctors wanted to know, okay, well, how is he going to react? And so they asked me when I was down, just sit there and go like this. Now that seems innocuous enough. Only after 6 days in 0G, and when you're in 0G, you all know how your balance works. Because the semicircular canals in your ear, and the fluid is just settling in space, the fluid is just moving. You close your eyes, moving. The fluid is just migrating through the zero, it's just floating through the surface tension in your inner ear, and the sensors are picking up that motion and translating it into movement, your body movement. But it ain't your body movement. It's one of the things, some people do have a problem going to sleep a little bit because they think they're moving. I felt like I was moving, but I can sleep anywhere, anytime, in any situation. But, so when I come back down and now I do this, and now this motion in my inner ear, because my mind has learned effectively to ignore it, it feels like I'm just being whacked back and forth. And my commander saw me doing it. I said, what are you doing? I said, well, the doctors asked me to do this. He said, said, we have an emergency. He said, you're scrambled. He said, don't do that. I'm sorry, they have to do what I'm doing. So it's a readaptation process.
Thank you.
Sure. What was the scariest moment? We had a couple of alarms on the ride up that went very quickly. Everything on the ride up happened very, very quickly. And when we rehearse, things go wrong. So I had watched my crew, and again, as a passenger, I had watched my crew react to dozens of emergencies very quickly, very efficiently, very effectively. So I didn't really worry much on the ride up. We had an alarm go off in the middle of the night in space. And if you ever, when you're traveling, you fall asleep and you wake up and you're in a car, you're not supposed to wake up in a car. And you're moving. Wake up in zero G with an alarm going off, and you say, what? that shook me up. And actually, the other one, the shuttle uses small rocket motors to control the attitude of the vehicle. You don't even know they're firing. They're called burning your jets. Okay? That's the primary system. The backup for everything. The backup system are 100-pound rocket engines that are sitting right in front of the crew cabin. They warned me before they flew. They said, pray we don't have to go to backups. And I said, why? Because it sounds like a cannon going on. Because it's right outside the cabin. But you need that control authority, you need all of that power when you come back and re-enter the Earth's atmosphere. So we're getting ready to come home. All I'm doing is getting my suit on to come home in. I'm not really worried about anything. We've got a good mission, everything's going well. I'm floating in the middeck, not touching anything. The cannon goes off. The cabin literally moves around me because that's what the attitude control jets do. They reorient the vehicle, but since I'm not touching anything, I'm not being reoriented with it. And I can remember very clearly saying, I don't know what we've lost. I'm still here thinking about it, and we land without it. We had no idea. And the commander calls him upstairs. He says, guys, I just switched from the verniers to the mains. I said, thank you. If you told me that 10 seconds ago, you would have saved 10 years of my life. The main engines, the solid rockets burn for about 2 minutes, but the separation event is seconds. The separation event is really exciting because they don't allow those solids to fall away. Those solids do not just fall away from the shuttle. They leave nothing to chance. There are actually rocket motors inside the rocket motors that fire toward the vehicle to push the motors away from it. And they're right at the height of the cabin. So you get this flame that shoots across the cabin and pushes these things away. They told me about this because obviously the guys that I flew with have flown a couple of times. And they warned me this is going to happen, but there's no way to simulate that. You find out when you get there, and it's really exciting.
How was your experience adapting to the sense of time?
I need a clear voice, please.
How was your experience adapting to the sense of time and like sleeping? Did you get used to it right away, or was it like extreme jet lag?
The question is about jet lag and your relative thinking as far as time goes. That's a tough one, particularly on the shuttle flight. NASA works very hard at that because your circadian rhythm. Everybody on board with circadian rhythm? Okay, your circadian rhythm is very important to how efficient you can work. Well, think about this. I got a shuttle mission that's defined by my orbit parameters, my mission, and my landing time for that mission. NASA wants you to have a full night's sleep as you get ready for that landing, because that's a big event. So they back forward. How long does it take to do that? How long does it take to do this? How long does it take? Okay, I want you to go to sleep 8 hours before you get ready to start doing all of that stuff. And now you start backing forward 24 hours from that. Guess what? You're not going to come up with a lunch time. You come up with something else. So they work really hard at controlling that. On space station, they actually just live on a 24-hour day. But on the shuttle mission, that was one of the challenges, if you will, in mission planning, was keeping everybody's circadian rhythm. And when I said I wasn't supposed to stay up all night, it was less than trivial because NASA was not real thrilled about me. But what had happened, we finished all of our primary mission objectives and we were going to come back a day early. We were supposed to have a 5-day mission. We were going to come back on flight day 4. And the weather was bad at the Cape, so we couldn't land. So we go around and we had everything packed up to come home. So we get ready to come home, the weather is bad, everything's packed up, what are we going to do? It's a tough life, but somebody's going to do it. So I stayed up, and I figured, okay, I can stay up all night because tomorrow is going to be the same day again. And then we wound up not coming home on flight day 5, because the weather was still bad at the Cape, and then we wound up coming back on flight day 6. So the circadian rhythm, that feeling is something that they work real hard at on shuttle mission. And it's a non-trivial problem, as I said. We got up about 2 in the morning before our launch time because for the same reason. We launched in the wee hours of the morning, so you have to go to bed so that you wake up, so that you're fresh, but you still have to get that 2 or 3 hours to get into the vehicle and get all the things done that you need to do there. And that's all part of the mission planning process.
I have a question. What keep you motivated through your time and like you've been working on the test or like some of the things?
Say that again with a straight face.
I get you straight to you.
Yeah, all right, fair enough. What's more motivating, going into space or sitting at a desk? Is that anything stronger than this? Actually, that's a fair question. I love what I do. I really do love it. Sir?
Yes, long-time listener, first-time call, Andrew Peck. Thank you, sir, for your service for our planet, being a pioneer on the frontier. Just one quick question. I think it's important. Do you believe in aliens?
I consider Einstein to be a real bright guy. And I've always been a big believer and in total agreement with Einstein's feeling. Have you heard of Einstein's feeling on that? Einstein, it's something like this. I'm very bad at quotes. I'm not really good at that. There are 2 possibilities. Either we are alone in the universe, or we are not. Either thought is incredible. Depends on what day it is and what I happen to be looking at, I can go either way. All the way up in the back. Since you're all the way up in the back, you have to go really loud.
What was it like landing?
What was it like landing? You're flying in a vehicle piloted by 2 of the best pilots in the world in conditions that by definition are ideal because they wouldn't try to bring them back unless it were an emergency. I didn't feel the mains touch. I literally did not feel the main wheels touch down. Now they clamp at the nose gears. They come down and the 2 rear wheels touch. But once they've done that to make sure it's on the ground, and they drive the nose wheel on the ground, you feel that. But they found on the shuttle program there's turbulence in the jet stream. That's really something. But other than that, it was impressive. The re-entry, you look out, it felt like I was inside a light bulb. Because you look out the window that had been black 40 minutes before, had been dark as space, now it's glowing white. And you know there's nothing between you and that except things in the glass and some styrofoam tires. They're designed here at Rutgers, by the way, those of you who don't know. The thermal tiles on the Space Shuttle Protective System were based on technology from here at Rutgers. I was doing one of these presentations with my wife, and one of the people in the audience, I hadn't been given one of these, said he happened to have a piece of the tile and he handed it to me. And it was like nothing. I mean, you literally didn't know you were holding anything. If you've ever seen the demonstrations, its thermal properties are absolutely incredible. And I handed it to my wife, who thought this was like a brick. It was more like a piece of styrofoam. She said, that was the only thing protecting you from that heat? Why didn't you show me that before you flew?
My good family of
so you're going to participate for the, well, whether any disagreement?
My wife and I actually had a prenup on that. Not a formal agreement. When I asked her to marry me, I told you that I couldn't get a job when I first graduated. And I said, and just for the record, I said, you know, you think this is coming from an engineer, so there's going to be a job there all the time. You'll be steady working, good guy. And I said, but I'm in the space business, and I said, I could be like a minor professional worker. Are you okay with that? She said, sure. I said, I'm a teacher. She says, I'll find work wherever we have to go. And there's one other thing. NASA's going to be building a space shuttle, and they're going to be taking civilian applicants for astronauts. I intend to apply to become an astronaut. You okay with that? There's a silence. This conversation took place over the phone, by the way. Silence at the end of the phone. She says, can I think about that? I said, sure. And the next day she's going to work. She says, the offer is still open. She says, yeah, I did. Now fast forward, about 20 years ago. I flew 13 or 14 years after that. And we didn't have this conversation then. But afterwards, I think it was after I applied for the last time, I said something to her about it. She says, you have to know. She says, I went home that night and I thought about your question. What are the chances really this conversation? She would say,
When you had to go to sleep, how did you stay in bed?
actually, sleeping was an interesting process. Before I flew, there were two schools of thought on that. Some people feel you can get the greatest night's sleep in the world. So you got to just relax. Some people feel that you can't sleep at all because you can't sleep on your back, you can't sleep on your side, you're not sleeping on anything. They have sleep restraints that actually tie up. They used to use Velcro, but they found that people try to reorient or manipulate themselves when they're sleeping and make too much noise. The night I stayed up all night, I didn't feel like getting my sleeping bag out, but the sleeping bag was actually a pain in the butt. And you wouldn't lay out. It's not like you can roll it out on the floor and crawl in it. It's just for a ordinary habit. So I just took the Velcro on my uniform and I hung myself on the wall and I fell asleep hanging on the wall. There's a story, if you Google my name and YouTube, tell me a story. I told the story down in East Basement. I don't remember the actual episode, but Bill Nelson, one of the guys in my crew, that night, apparently I fell asleep and pulled away from the Velcro and I'm floating around the cabin because the air is always circulating. The air blew me and it happened to be where the sleeping bag was tied. Pushed me away. I guess he did this a couple of times and decided he'd had enough of it, so he took a roll of duct tape and he taped me to the wall. The only part of the story I remember is being taped to the wall.
So, we're dealing with time, especially with the launch and the launch of the satellite. Would you be reorienting yourself with the time of launch in like USD back here for those 7 days, or what all just happened in flight?
Now, what we did on the shuttle mission was, because you never knew when the shuttle was going to launch. You got a launch window. Our launch window was a couple of hours. So we could have launched any time between 7 and 9 in the morning. So at the instant they thought they liked the engines, they started clocking. That's mission elapsed time. Because everything typically then runs from mission elapsed time. Now that's not always gospel, because when the orbit changes, when you change the launch time, you're now going to be in a different spot in inertial space. So the launch, actual deployment of the satellite and everything shifts by some amount of time. But basically, mission elapsed time is a pretty good place to start from, and it's related to your mission. On space station, they live on universal time.
How was the relationship among the astronauts? Were there ever any disputes?
How was the relationship among the astronauts? Were there ever any disputes? Not on our flight. We had a 6-day mission. It'd be great to be a fly on the wall in space station, because I gotta believe people living there for years from different cultures, that there have been disagreements, but I don't know that. But on our flight, we do not have any.
What was the temperature like in the cabin, and did it ever fluctuate at all during launch?
temperature like in the cabin? Was there any fluctuation? That was a crew, what I call a crew preference item. There's literally a thermostat in the cabin, the thermal control system will maintain that, the environmental control system. And that was a crew preference item. We happen to keep ours, we like it a little cooler. And you notice that everybody was wearing shorts. Some of the crews on the shuttle would keep it a little warmer. It was a crew preference item.
All right, let's take two more questions.
What were the typical experiments you ran day to day?
What were the typical experiments we ran day to day? I had my infrared camera, which we wanted to get as much operation time as we could. We had life sciences experiments. I got to chew cotton. That's fascinating. It turns out that your body's metabolism is best measured by fluid, the body fluids. That's why you need urine samples. If there's no doctor on board, they try very hard not to do anything invasive. So it turns out one of the other things to do is if you chew sterile cotton, you flush your saliva, and then you put that in a vial and you bring that back, and then they process like the one, everybody on the shuttle was a guinea pig. There were my infrared camera. The satellite was actually deployed on the first day of the flight, so that was done behind us. And then the other experiment was a space adaptation, which was basically measuring my visual response. We really like things to be vertical. There is no vertical in space. And so how your mind reacts to that is one of the things that we're trying to understand. So we had these goggles that would actually measure your visual response to zero G and how it changed with the force condition. And we also had Halley's Comet was visible while we were in orbit. So NASA had three astronomers, three of the guys that I showed pictures of were astronomers, so they could get the best observations of the comet from above the Earth's atmosphere. And there were a number of other astronomers, the other guys in the young lady in the back.
As an aerospace engineer, I think there's many different types. What, other than being at the right place at the right time, as I said before, what made you choose the more space side of aerospace instead of maybe planes or jets?
Why did I pick aerospace versus aeronautics? Is typically, I think, the expression people use. I was fascinated by aeronautics, as I said, the airplanes. I didn't have nearly the head for fluid dynamics that I have for spacecraft dynamics. Spacecraft dynamics, in me, is like eating and breathing. Orbits, to me, is people look at me when I talk about orbits, and to me, it's common sense. But for instance, if we were in orbit, some of you may have studied this, and if you did, I apologize. But if there's a spacecraft here, and a spacecraft here, and we're both in orbit. Now, if I want to rendezvous with that satellite, intuitively you would say, I'm going to push myself this way. Well, I'm going to go further behind. In about an orbit. Initially, you will start catching up with it, but as the orbit progresses, you're actually going to go a little bit above, and then by the time you come around, one rev later, you're going to be further away than you were when we started. Rendezvous and docking in orbital mechanics is a fascinating. One of the reasons the Buzz Aldrin was selected to go to the moon is apparently Buzz, long before we studied this stuff, intuitively thought about a lot of these things and figured a lot of it out. The rendezvous was a real big part of this selection process. And to me, I mean, I didn't glean this immediately when I walked into the classroom. But as soon as I said, oh, yeah, okay, I can understand that. Let's move on to the next part. So orbital mechanics, those kinds of things are just second nature to me. That's just the way my mind works. So that's the reason I wound up on the image. And propulsion, I gotta have some fire and smoke in my life.
All right, so we're going to stop here. Let's give another round of applause.